Hey, welcome everybody. HSC Podcast 46. Got the big box Steve on the mic. Of course, Big Smooth. No Fresh West tonight, but we'll have him back on soon. Maybe tonight, but probably not. So we'll see him next
Internet
week.
issues.
Internet issues, but it's all good. Getting into another episode here, NFL. This is getting late in the season. So if you've been following us, been watching, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, thanks for listening. Any questions, comments, don't forget to leave them in the comments. We'll get to any of those as well. So before we jump into NFL recap and predictions, let's talk a little college football because it's a big college football weekend. All you college football fans out there, a lot of bowl games already played, of course, but this weekend, right, starting tomorrow, there's a lot of games.
Mhm.
So tomorrow's Friday, and then of course Saturday, a lot of big games, and then Monday, you got the real big games. So let's see, or not Monday, was it? What's it? Is it Sunday or the big games are played?
I don't know why they would put him up against.
Football, yeah.
Let me
Oh no,
check.
no, no. They're on the 31st. Okay, so yeah, Saturday's the big games. All the big games on, or at least the first round of the CFP.
Yeah.
So before we get into CFP predictions, any big surprises up to this point on any bowl games you watched? Anything that you saw that was fun to watch? Any good games out there? I know the Oregon game was fun to watch.
Yeah. Holiday Bowl always seems like a good game. Um, well, we got Washington's winning by 10 right now in the fourth quarter, so that'll be interesting, them beating Texas. Uh
Yeah,
isn't I don't like it, but Florida State looked really good today.
yeah, they beat Oklahoma. That Minnesota Syracuse game was pretty fun. I watched a little bit of that.
Sadly,
The
Wes is the one we need. He watched probably every single bowl game.
well, the Oregon State blowing out Florida, that was a bit of a surprise.
It wasn't a surprise for me. They had no one playing. Florida had no one playing.
Yeah, it's a little weird now. Like, is that so different?
Hmm.
You didn't have that before. Like, people weren't opting out of bowl games.
Well, and it's weird too because you got transfer portal too.
Yeah, well,
So
true.
you got the guys that are like going pro. So yeah, so like Florida started a redshirt freshman quarterback who's never started a game.
Right.
So um yeah, and they're starting left tackle didn't play, and yeah, so it's kind of I'm not going to diminish Oregon State because they played really well. And Florida wasn't that good that this year anyway. I mean, Oregon State's ranked 14th. Florida's not ranked. So
Yeah, Oregon State had a good season. I mean, they beat the Ducks. They finished like 9-4 or something like that.
10-3,
10-3. Yeah.
same record as Oregon.
So that's a really good season. And they beat Oregon, so that's a good season for them.
They have the same record as Utah, and then they're one game behind USC and Washington. So
So I thought was really interesting. Tomorrow, Tennessee and Clemson play
yeah.
in the Orange Bowl. And it's weird to me that that seems like one of the best bowl games that we're going to see.
Well, I just don't know. We'll see because Tennessee's not the same without Hooker.
Right.
And
But
that
still,
was a
you have
big,
number 6 and number 7,
yeah. But that was a big get. You saw Oregon State got the quarterback from Clemson, DJ. I can't pronounce his last name.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I can't even take a shot at that name. But
Yeah,
yeah. Well, it's because they had the other dude that came in and he's taken over.
right. But
And he
that's a
looks
big
really
get
good.
because I think Oregon was trying to get him too. So for Oregon State to get a Clemson quarterback, that's pretty
Yeah.
big.
But he has to wait a year to play, right?
No, they don't do that anymore. I don't think.
Oh, no, really? Well,
Yeah,
then
that's
that's
why
probably why
everyone.
he didn't go to Oregon then, because Bo Nix is coming back.
Yeah, But I think that's what the whole transfer portal thing is they just transfer. We have what's the one quarterback who's now playing for who's transferred all 4 years? What was his name? Um,
I mean, it makes sense, I guess, if, allow him to transfer and play the next season.
right.
So who do you think is going to win that game? Then you think Clemson's going to win that game?
Yeah, I'm thinking Clemson wins that game. I don't believe Tennessee's the same without Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, and are there receivers playing? I didn't even check that because they've got two receivers that are really good, might be NFL prospects.
Let me see. Oh, JT Daniels is the one. He's transferred 4 straight years. He
That's
was at
awesome.
USC, then Georgia, then he went to Troy, I think, and now he transferred again this year.
Wow.
Um,
Go till you
so
can
that's
find a
where the
starting position, huh?
yeah, so that's where people get mad at the whole transfer portal thing.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a little too much. Saturday, Alabama, Kansas State, though. That should be a good
Yeah,
game,
that's going to
Sugar
be a
Bowl.
good game. That's like the day, even though, Alabama's not in the national championship picture, that's still a like a David versus Goliath. Because Kansas State
Yeah,
has always been that way.
I don't feel like. I mean, I know Kansas State played good at the end of the year. They beat TCU, right?
Mm,
So you'd like to think that they're a top tier team since they beat a team that's in the playoff. But going against Alabama, that's
yeah,
tough. Because Kansas State typically doesn't face a whole lot of tough competition throughout the year. The Big 12, just not what it used to be.
right. And it looks like the only uh Cedric Tillman, the receiver from the Tennessee, he did opt out, so he's not
Oh, you
playing.
did, yeah. So yeah, I think probably Clemson is a good shot at that then.
Mm-hmm.
Where a Sugar Bowl, I think Alabama should beat Kansas State.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's one of those like David versus Goliath things. Maybe Kansas State just gets hyped for the bowl and plays well.
Yeah, it happens sometimes with teams like Alabama. They don't make the top four, and so it's kind of like, eh.
We'll get back to the playoffs for a second in a minute here, but then Monday you've got the Cotton Bowl and the Rose Bowl, right? So the Cotton Bowl kind of crazy to me. So you got USC and Tulane, and it's kind of the same thing. It's like, well, Tulane had a good season, but how don't you feel a little slighted if you're USC? Like you get to play Tulane,
Yeah, I would say so. It's like, oh, you could have had a chance at the Rose Bowl, but nope, you're going to the Cotton Bowl.
right? I mean, technically they had a chance at the national championship before uh, that last loss.
Right.
Well, then they lost again, but I'm just saying at that time they were ranked, 5 or 6 when Oregon lost, right? And all they had to do was win out, and they're going to the playoff
Right.
because they only had the one loss at that point to Utah.
And they
And so
lost to Utah again.
yeah, because I mean, so you really had a national championship contender in USC there before those last couple losses, and now you get to the Cotton Bowl and you're playing Tulane,
Right. And Caleb Williams is playing, so
right? I mean, I don't know that. I think that's more even of a David Goliath than Kansas State and Alabama. At least I think Kansas State has a chance. I don't think Tulane has much of a
well,
chance in
what's
this game.
funny is the odds makers, the Alabama is a 6.5 point favorite, or USC's 2.5 point favorite.
That's crazy. I mean, I get it. These teams have good seasons though, but Tulane, it's still Tulane,
Right.
right? It's not like they're playing competition all year. And USC, you're talking about one of the best recruiting schools, in the Pac-12.
All right.
So,
In the
uh,
nation, usually.
yeah, well, usually in the nation, realistically, they haven't been as good as that they were in the past. Like if you'd have
Right.
said 10 years ago, or even more, that Tulane was going to beat USC in a bowl, you'd be crazy. And now you're giving them only a 3-point margin of victory.
Right.
So I got to think USC wins that
The
game.
over under is 62 and a half.
I think USC scores 62 and a half. Oh man. Then Rose Bowl, Utah Penn State. And so now you got Penn State in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I feel like if I'm the Rose Bowl, I'm like, really, man? I get Penn State, Utah.
Right.
When all they had, they would thought they were going to get Michigan or Ohio State or Oregon or USC or
USC.
Washington. I mean,
Right.
Utah,
Yeah.
Penn State.
Yeah. This is a disappointing, yet I think these teams are pretty well matched, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think Penn State can run the ball well. Utah's got good defense, and they can play offense. And Penn State's never going to be terrible.
Right. Yeah, this will be a
So
good game.
yeah, I could see this being a good game.
It's just so
Not the
weird to have
Rose
the
Bowl,
Rose Bowl on January 2nd.
right? Right. So we're gonna have all the games before the Rose Bowl. It's so funny. Isn't the Rose Bowl always on the first?
It usually is. I think that's when the Rose Bowl parade, but that's the weird thing. No games this year are on January 1st. That's how afraid they are of the NFL.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't even realize that. They literally have no games on the first. Huh. Well, I mean, I guess you can't really put them up against each other, especially this late in the NFL season,
Right.
because a lot of these games are, playoff deciding games.
Well, that's the thing. I just remember waking up, not feeling the best, but waking up, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, Citrus Bowl's on. Okay, we'll
Right.
start our day at the Citrus Bowl. And then it's like, okay, now we got the Rose Bowl and then it's like, oh, Orange Bowl and then the Sugar Bowl.
Right.
And that's how the day was set. And now it's like, oh, I guess that's what they want to do on Monday. The
And it's
sad
all
thing is I
spread
got to
out.
work on Monday. Why?
You don't got a vacation day on Monday? That's weird.
No, I'm working a half day though, because yeah, the Cotton Bowl's at 10 in the morning.
Oh man.
Cotton Bowl's at 10. All these games are, the ReliaQuest Bowl, Mississippi State, Illinois is at 9.
Yeah,
Then
why
you
they make them
have
so early?
the Citrus and the Cotton Bowl at 10, Rose Bowl at 2, and
Wow.
that's it. We ain't got no night games. Oh, you know why? Monday Night Football,
Yep.
which we get to is the game of the week.
Right. Yes, it is. Oh man. So let's finish up here on the first playoff round here for college football. So we got obviously Michigan, TCU, and Georgia, Ohio State. So number two, number three, Michigan, number three, TCU. And now what's the Fiesta Bowl? What do you think?
Well, I think my original prediction before we even knew who was in the playoffs is I think I had Michigan in it. I know you have Michigan winning it.
Yeah, I think Michigan is a good shot.
Yeah, so I'm going to take Michigan. TCU just lost to Kansas State.
Right. And they
Michigan,
never looked great all year. I mean, they should have lost that game to Oklahoma State.
right? They should have lost the other game to Kansas State too.
Right.
I'm going
I
with
just
Michigan. More talented,
yeah.
better coach.
That's what I was thinking. I just don't know that TCU has the athletes physically. They don't have the size and the physical athletes. I think they have plenty of speed. I just think they're gonna get pushed around a little bit. So yeah, I think Michigan as well. Although this, I think, will be the game of the playoffs. I think Georgia Ohio State was going to be a really good game. Who do you got here?
Well, I have Georgia winning it all, so I got to take Georgia in
Got to
this
take
game.
Georgia.
This is a probably the toughest 1-4 we've had
Yeah,
in since we've had the college football playoff. I just think though that Georgia, their defense is still really good. They can probably run all over Ohio State.
right. Because Michigan did for sure.
Yeah. So I'm giving this to Ohio State. They're going back to game plan from last year, I think, and just run that ball. So
Yeah, so you got Georgia here.
yeah.
Yeah, I think if Ohio State was healthy, they're missing some key players. So I think that hurts them a lot here because they're going to have to outscore Georgia. They're going to have to put up a lot of points to win this game. And then they have to get Georgia into that scoring battle, which I still think Georgia could win a scoring battle, but
Right.
defensively, I think Georgia's just too tough. And I think Georgia comes out of this game as well.
So no surprises, no
So,
upsets.
so we're talking Georgia, Michigan in the finals. That's what we got for you guys.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into week 16 recap. Not our best week as a group, but not our worst week, right? we've
I
we've
got
had
10
worse.
wins. That's all I care about. It's like at least get the 10 wins.
Yep, and you gained a game in the overall because I was 9-7, you were 10-6. A couple games that did not go as planned, though. So there was a little bit out of the ordinary last week.
Yeah.
I think the Texans was one of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't it so? It's funny. We were talking about this game, right? And you talked about how Derrick Henry rushes for 200 yards on the Texans all the time. He comes out, he gets a 50-yard touchdown. He's got nearly 100 yards in the first half, and
And
then
then I
they don't
stopped
run any
giving them
ball.
the ball.
What are you doing?
That's what I saw too. It was like, just give him the ball.
Right. And then they lose. You
Yeah.
know. So I think is that bad. That's bad coaching. It's got to be. You got to blame a little bit that on coaching, right?
Well, obviously we have to because the game was on tonight and Henry didn't play. So maybe there was something to do with he wasn't
And maybe
100%. And
he
they,
got hurt in the second half or something.
yeah, but still, it's like run Henry. He didn't
Yeah,
got, he had Malik Willison. They start Josh Dobbs tonight. It's like,
yeah,
man.
yeah. Tennessee is just spiraling right now.
Mm-hmm. They've all 6 straight.
Yeah, that's so bad. So that was still a big surprise though that they lost that game. You had the Jacksonville Jets. Jets haven't looked so great lately, but I thought that'd be a closer game um, where the Jets just came out and laid an egg.
Well, I mean, I took Jacksonville because Zach Wilson was starting.
Right.
The
Uh,
one that surprised me was the big butt kicking of the Panthers over the Lions.
oh yeah. That was I think we had the Lions. All of us had the Lions on that one.
Yeah, I mean, because they were one of the hottest teams in the NFL, and then and the Panthers are the Panthers.
And the score looks a lot closer than it was.
Oh yeah, it was a blowout early, and
Right.
then
Yeah. It was a beating, and then Goff got 2
Mhm.
touchdowns late, and like made it look closer.
Right,
I mean, when you lose by 14 and that's making it look closer, like you got
yeah,
beat.
it was ridiculous.
So yeah, that was a big surprise. I don't think Dallas Philly was a huge surprise. I thought Philly might win. I obviously picked Dallas because no hurts, but um,
It was close.
it was still a close game, so I don't think that was huge. But Minshew throws for 355. That's funny.
Yeah. I feel bad for the guy. It's like, can't he get a break? Like, give him a
No,
job.
I think there's definitely like he could play for the Jets.
Yeah. You
I like
imagine
Mike White, but I'd rather have Gardner Minshew.
you imagine Minshew in that New York media? Oh
Yeah.
man.
Maybe like old school.
Yeah. The Dolphins losing to the Packers. That was another
Oh
surprising
my
one.
gosh, did Tua just look horrible or what? Those interceptions late in the game, he had like three interceptions, and a couple of them were just really bad interceptions.
Well, he's out with a concussion again, so who
Oh,
knows?
brutal. And I was also kind of surprised, even though it's like it's still Denver, but to give up 51 points to the Rams, because
They can
Denver's
make
been
it.
one of the best defenses in
Yeah.
the league all year. So that was a
Obviously,
surprise
they
too.
quit on their coach, and then they got him fired. So
Right.
fine.
And I believe it was a coaching problem, though, a lot of it. Like, I know Russell Wilson hasn't looked great this year, but I do believe from game one, this coach has had problems.
Mm-hmm.
So that was still a beating though, 51-14. Jeez.
But in this situation, it was the coach's fault. But in the Raiders situation, it's the quarterback's fault.
Right. I definitely don't like McDaniels at all.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that was the best hire for Las Vegas. But also, I mean, what else? What other options do the Raiders have at this point? You have a team this year that should have you thought was going to be a contender, and you're not contending for the playoffs at all.
Well, when you see, that's the problem is like they looked like how many second half leads did they blow? 5?
Yeah, I think they were breaking the record for most
Yeah.
leads
So
blown of 14 points or more.
obviously Carr could throw the ball around and score points. And then in the second half, they kind of just run the ball 2 times and throw on 3rd and 10.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's hard at that point because one, I think yes, I think you have a coaching problem. So I don't think he's the coach for them for a long term. I wouldn't want him as long term coach.
I don't
But
I
I
don't want
also
him to
think
be.
that if you have a chance to possibly, not have to pay Carr hundreds of millions of dollars over the next couple of years and get maybe a young quarterback in there, maybe it's the time to pull the trigger. Because if they don't do
Well,
it
they have
now,
to though.
that's what I'm saying. If they don't do it now, they're locked into Carr for a lot of money.
Yeah, for 2 more years, but that's the issue though is if they need a lot of things to go right for them to be in the top 6.
Well, they could
And that's
always trade
still
though.
huh?
They could trade up.
Yeah, but you don't want then you're like the drafts that the Raiders have been so bad.
So bad. It's almost as bad as Chicago. I think they compete for the worst drafting
No,
teams.
no, no. The Raiders take that hands down. At least, the Bears drafted Roquan Smith in the first round and
Right,
stuff.
right.
You know, the Raiders with Cleveland Farrell and top 4 picks. Like that, none of their first round picks for the last 5 years are going to be on the team.
Well, you can go back like 10, 15 years on the Raiders and look at their picks, and it's bad.
I can only think of Colton Miller as the only good pick they've had, probably. I
Right.
mean, Josh Jacobs, but that's a running back going in the first round. So, but Colt Miller's been sadly the only pick since Khalil Mack, I think.
Yeah, it's been pretty rough. I was actually looking at that, and I can't remember all the top of them off my head, but I mean, obviously Jamarcus Russell was up there, and you know, but if you go through that and you look at that list, it's pretty rough.
Robert Gallery.
Yeah, Robert Calorie. Oh man. My friend John, he man, he hated that Robert Gallery pick. But I mean, yeah, but Chicago's been pretty bad too historically. Maybe not recently. Recently, they've been a little bit better, but still, like trading up and getting rid of all the picks for Trubisky, and but go back further than that. Like, come on, dude. Like they had some bad ones in there.
Right.
Cade McNown, Rashawn Salam.
That's
Like it
going way
was,
back though.
it's going way back, but it was pretty bad. but we'll give it to the Raiders. All
Yeah.
right, let's jump into week 17 here. So slim lead here overall, so we need to have a big week. Obviously, we have Thursday night game. We all took Dallas by 10. Dallas won by 14, so we're all good there. First game, Arizona at Atlanta. I thought this was actually a tough game to pick.
I think this was the toughest game to pick for me.
Yeah, I think this was one of my hardest.
Who is
Well,
worse?
second hardest. Yeah, who's the worst team? What do you got?
I went I went with the default when it's two bad teams and you just don't know who's going to win, you go with the home team. I think Cordell Patterson and Algier are going to get the running game going. Uh, although McSorley, this was a tough one because McSorley didn't look bad.
No, we didn't.
But I'm just going to go with the Falcons because they're at home.
Because they're at home. Yeah. Yeah. I was back and forth a lot on this one. On paper, Arizona should win this game. They are more talented on paper. And so maybe it's just me and my Madden mind thinking if I had these guys on Madden, I'd beat a lot of teams. And so I'm taking Arizona by a field goal just because they're both horrible. It's a coin flip. And McSorley maybe he comes back. You know, I mean, he's got good receivers. He's got a good running back. Like he could do it. We'll see. So swing game early. You got Arizona or you got Atlanta. I got Arizona. Chicago at Detroit. Um, I think Chicago's not really playing anymore. I don't feel like they've really tried in a game for like the last 5 weeks. Where I think they had chances to win games, it looks like they're literally tanking. I really honestly feel like they're trying to lose at this point. So I think Detroit at home is going to get this win. And get to them by 5, maybe more, because Chicago keeps keeping it close, so it doesn't look like they're tanking. And then they do something stupid at the end and be like, "Oh, look, we fumbled, we lost." So I was taking Detroit by 5.
Yeah, because the Bears have to keep losing because they need either that first or second pick so they can get. I hope they trade back, but
Trade back, yeah,
they
absolutely.
have to trade back. But yeah, I'm taking Detroit here, even though they looked so bad. They started to turn it on late in that game against the Panthers. They need this win. It's
Oh
at
yeah,
home.
have to have it.
It's at home. So yeah, I'm taking the Lions by 7.
Their defense reverted back to like looking bad, real bad again. Like they were horrible at the beginning of the season. They looked like they were getting a little better. They were getting some pass rush in there, but man, did they look awful last week.
Yeah. They have the top 2 rookie pass rushers.
Right. Yeah, just looked bad, getting ran all over and Sam Darnold was tearing you up. It's not a good week.
No.
Denver at Kansas City. What do you got?
Yeah, the Chiefs by a million. I don't know. I mean,
I mean, after you lose by 51 to the Rams.
yeah. Chiefs need to keep winning to keep up with the Bills. They're gonna it's a division game. They don't like to lose those. So yeah, the spread is 12.5. I got the Chiefs by 14. Although Denver did play them tough the last time.
Yeah, they did. Um, I'm actually interested to see how Denver comes out and plays, now that, they announced the coaching change. I feel like you made a point you said earlier, it's like maybe they played that bad so their coach would get fired. Um, it's hard to believe that Denver could get 50 points. They have a solid defense, and they've been solid all year. So that was just weird. Kansas City is a team that could do that, and you're right. Kansas City is like, look, we still have a chance to win the AFC. We have to win. We're going to go beat up Denver, and I think they're going to win by 20. I think they're going to blow them out. Let's see. Miami at New England. So Tua may or may not play. I don't know if he's
I don't
been
think
ruled
he's not
officially out
playing.
yet. New England just does not look good, but it's in New England. But Miami again, they have to win this game. So I'm gonna stick with Miami. I'm gonna go with Miami by a touchdown here.
Let me read here. Oh, they don't say he's out, but they pretty much say he's out for the rest of the season. Um, I This was a tough one for me because of Tua. I'm taking the Patriots. It's at home. It's cold. They know Brissett. He used to play there, so I think Bill Belichick will have a plan for him. It's gonna probably windy and cold. It's gonna be a game for Ramon Stevenson to play well and keep the Patriots playoff hopes alive just a little bit. Um, yeah, I got the Patriots by 3.
Yeah, that's a tough one for Miami to go in and win at New England. It's going to be tough. Um, I think this is where you really get to find out what kind of coach Mike McDaniel is.
Right.
So I think this is a big test for him early in his coaching career. So another swing game. So we got two swing games on the board early.
Got to catch up.
Let's see. Indianapolis at the Giants. What you got?
I'm taking the Giants. I think the Colts are a dumpster fire. Giants are actually, I think did they clinch already a playoff berth? Or,
I think they might have. Yeah. So I think it was between the winner. Yeah, the last one undecided is the NFC, the South, right? And then then it's a big
oh,
race for the seventh spot.
so they haven't clinched yet.
So if I guess if they lose both games, right? So if they lose two, they go 8-8. No,
They'll be 8-8-1.
8-8-1. That's right, because they have the tie.
Yeah,
And
so if they win,
so
they're in. So that's what they need to
yeah,
win.
so they have to win this
Um,
game.
the Colts, yeah, they need to lose so they can get in a quarterback. So I think the Giants win this game pretty handily. And then soon we won't have to worry about just Saturday anymore.
I was watching I think it was ESPN, but it was like a daytime show or something like that, and they were talking about the racist hiring of Jeff Saturday.
What?
Yeah, because it's like, they hire this guy with no experience and he's white, and so somehow like Jeff Saturday's racist, part of this racist hiring. And I was just like, I mean, like you call it whatever you want, but it's just I don't think it's the best hire, but to call it a racist hiring, I was like, come on, guys, like you're stretching so far right now.
No, it's just that he hired one of his buddies and
Right.
it's an interim. He's not going to be there. He's just there to lose games and then he'll be
Right.
done.
Yeah, they're it's all about a draft pick and they'll get
It's
a
like,
new coach in next year.
how are you supposed to we can't interview coordinators from other teams during the season
Right. Well,
or
and I think
college coaches. I mean,
that's probably their plan. It's like we'll put him here now. That way, after the season, we might be able to get one of these really good coordinators. But like I said, it's the whole thing, and I mean, it started when they first hired him, but it's like a talking point. I'm just like, come on, it's weird. It's weird.
yeah,
But you're right. Giants at home here, like, and the Colt. Like, how do you lose this game?
right.
You're
Jonathan
getting
Taylor's not playing. I mean,
yeah, you're in the playoffs too. Like, this is the if you can't get up for a game, like this is the game you're going to get up for, right?
oh yeah, New York fans are going to be going crazy.
Yeah, and Saquon, he's back full healthy again, and just in time for the playoffs. So I think it's good for New York. And I got New York by it'll be close, maybe 6. New York likes to run the ball, grind it out. They don't blow people out. So I think it'll be close, but they'll still win. New Orleans at Philly. I don't think this will be a close game. Philly, after a really bad loss in their mind, to Dallas. I don't think it's a terrible loss because you're without Hurts, but to them, I think that hurt their pride, and they're going to take it out on New Orleans and blow them out by at least 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, we're in agreement here. I think with that win, they clinched the division.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to see. I'm pretty sure they would probably clinch home field.
Yeah, I don't know if they have the tiebreaker or not on Minnesota,
Oh yeah,
but
Minnesota still is only
yeah,
one game out.
because Minnesota's only 1 game out, so it depends on the tiebreaker. Because if they have the
Gotcha.
tiebreaker, then yeah, this could clinch for them. I think tiebreaker for that would be conference record, right?
Conference
Oh,
record.
head to head, then conference, and they didn't play head to head, did they?
No, I don't think so.
No, so it would be just conference record. Oh wait, no, they did. They did. They played on like Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, right?
It's like, yeah. Oh yeah, they
Yeah,
played
yeah,
September 19th.
yeah. So if they
Oh,
win, they clinch home field.
yeah, yeah, because they kind of blew out the Vikings.
Right.
It's 24-7.
Yeah. So this is a good big game for them. They gotta win
And
this
then they
one.
don't have to worry about bringing Hurts back, although he was practicing
Right.
this week.
I think you play in New Orleans, you go in, you let him. I think you let him sit the whole time. I think
I would
you
say so.
probably don't
Minshaw's
play
pretty
him.
good.
Yeah. I don't think you play him just to make sure he's healthy for the playoffs.
Right.
Well, then he gets 3 weeks off. That might give him a little rust.
Right.
So
It'll
maybe
be
you do.
it'll be
Maybe you
four
just play
weeks
him like
off.
yeah. Maybe you just play him like a half.
Yeah. Because he'd have 4 weeks off because he'll miss 3 games plus the bye.
Right. Well, I mean healthy weeks, but yeah, because he didn't play because he wasn't healthy.
Right.
But if he's healthy and then you sit him, now you're sitting him for 3 healthy weeks.
Right.
So yeah, maybe you sit him again this week. You win your game. Next week you play him in the first half, and then you sit him till the playoffs
Right.
until the yeah. Either way, I think they win this game.
Yeah. We agree on that.
Yeah. This is an interesting. I think one of the other games of the week here is this game because there's a lot on the line here. Carolina at Tampa. What do you got on this one?
This was an interesting one. And it's just, I can't believe like Tampa's luck because they go against all these guys. They go, oh, we were going to play the Cardinals, and there's Trace McSorley. Um, we play in the division that has no teams that over 500,
Right.
but they're not that good. The Buccaneers are not that good. I'm taking the Panthers here. I have the Panthers winning by 4.
Yeah. Uh, Tampa should be good,
Yeah,
right?
they should
Because
be.
they have the talent on the team, minus Tom Brady. Forget about Tom Brady. You got good receivers, you got good running backs, you have a lot of solid defensive players. Like you should be a good solid team.
You could take
Uh
that team in Madden, right, Steve?
I would definitely take that team in Madden. Definitely take that. I'd kill it at that team in Madden. And and the problem is that they haven't put together all year and they but here's what it comes down to is for me is that Carolina is still that team that they're just not the team yet. And Tampa, they've been there before, you know. It's going to be a big game in Tampa. It's going to be an ugly, ugly game. And Tampa's going to win on a last minute field goal. So another swing game here because I'm taking Tampa by a field goal at the end of the game. Should be a fun game to watch, though.
Maybe. It might be
Yeah, oh,
horrific.
well, I mean, it could be an ugly game to watch, but it's
Right.
exciting because if it's close, this decides the division basically.
Right.
At least for Tampa, like because if Tampa wins, they're in, right? I think that's what it is.
I think so.
Where I think Carolina wins, they might have some other tiebreaker things that could happen to them, but not with Tampa. With like maybe New Orleans or who else is up there? Because they're all 6-9 or whatever, right? Or
Yeah, let's see here.
so they're yeah, so 6-9 and 6-9 in New Orleans. So they're both 6-9. So let's say Carolina beats Tampa, then they go 7-9. Let's say somehow the Saints beat Philadelphia and they go 7-9.
Right.
Then you have to go to your head to head versus Carolina and the Saints. And I
Right.
don't know how
Yeah,
their
so
head to
you're
head
right.
is.
So if the Bucks win, they're in. For the Panthers, they have to beat the
Oh,
Bucks.
because then the Saints play the Panthers next week.
Yeah.
Even though the Panthers won the first game, right? And then so if the Saints then would have to beat the Panthers, and then
Well,
you're
then we
looking
get
at
into some tricky
conference
stuff here.
record.
So if the Panthers beat Tampa and New Orleans loses,
They're out.
then
If New
let's
Orleans
see.
loses and the Panthers win, Panthers are in.
Over the next 2 weeks could make the playoffs if the Bucks go 0-2 and the Saints go 1-1, being the oh no, I meant so if the Panthers beat the Bucks, but the Saints beat the Panthers, the Panthers can still get in if the Bucks go 0-2.
0-2, right?
And then they end up with like the Panthers would have the tiebreaker between the three-way tie.
Jeez,
So New
that's ugly.
Orleans,
But New Orleans could win both games, right? And then Tampa or Carolina could beat Tampa, and Tampa could lose the next game too, and then Saints could be in.
so yeah, the Saints need to win out, and they need the Buccaneers to lose out.
Right. And the Panthers to win, beat Tampa, and then lose next week.
Yeah, because the Buccaneers, if they win any games, the Saints are out.
Right.
So
Yeah, what a nightmare for the
it's going to be crazy. Well, obviously, we want the Panthers to win and the Saints to lose to the Eagles, and then it's going to be like mass chaos.
yeah. Yeah, that'll be fun to watch. I
I
don't think
want a
it's going to
seven
happen.
and 7-10 team to make the
Oh,
playoffs
jeez.
and have a home game.
Yeah, against Dallas, right?
Yeah,
Who is historically bad on the road.
that would be ridiculous. That would be the most hilarious thing for people that hate the Cowboys if
Oh
they
my gosh.
lose a playoff
Cowboys
game to a
fans would
7-10 team.
never hear the end of that. Cowboys fans would never hear the end of that. But even if they do, let's say, even if Tampa wins, right, and goes to the playoffs, what are they going to the playoffs at? At best, uh, 8-9.
Is
No,
that
what
the
are they?
best they can do?
No, what are they? 7 and so they're 7-8. So 9-8. So they can go nine and
So they
eight,
can
which
go, yeah.
still is really terrible. And then they go in and then they beat Dallas at 9-8. Still pretty bad. Uh, I don't know. We'll see. This is another swing game for us because I think Tampa at home will win this game.
And then they'll be in the playoffs to clinch it.
Right. Yep. Because then the Panthers and Saints play. So let's see. Cleveland at Washington. Um, it's at Washington, and I think this is a must win for Washington if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive. I think they still can get in with a loss and a lot of other losses, but with a win here, they're actually in really good shape. So I think Washington has a pretty good team, a lot of good players. Cleveland is hit and miss. In Washington, I think Washington comes out with a 7-point victory here.
We got a swing game.
Oh,
And the only reason why is, you know who's starting quarterback for the Commanders?
does it matter? Start.
Carson Wentz.
Mm. Yeah, well, Carson can throw away some games for sure.
So I'm going with Deshaun's had a few games under his belt now. Wentz, I just don't under. Everyone was talking about how horrible the Commanders were when Wentz was in, and then they went to Heineke and they started winning games, and all of a sudden it looked like a playoff team.
Right.
But now they're going back to Wentz.
It's crazy.
It's not going to work. Browns are going to win this game by 3.
Oh man, this is going to be a big swing week.
Yeah,
This is where either you get back in it or it's
it's
over.
over. Yeah.
He's going for it all. Let's see. Jacksonville at Houston.
So we
They
figured
got
out this game doesn't matter
no, it
for
really doesn't.
Jacksonville, right? To make the playoffs. If they lose, it doesn't matter. If they win, it doesn't matter because it's all about next week. But I like the Jags in this game because it matters to the Texans that they need to lose.
Then you gotta get that first pick.
Yeah.
Because if they lose,
So,
Chicago is in.
right. So if I'm, I think, and also for Jacksonville, they need to win just to have momentum.
Right. They need to play well.
Right. So yeah, I got Jacksonville by 6 in this game.
Yeah, I think it'll be a close game. I think Houston plays well. Um, but I think ultimately Jacksonville wants to get to win. Houston doesn't want to win. And so ultimately Jackson will end up winning this game. But what I think is going to happen is Houston's going to come out and take the lead just to prove they can. And Jacksonville will come back and win by a field goal.
Can you imagine if the Texans win this game? It will all become
Oh,
down to week 1 where they tied
where they tied.
to not get the first pick.
Right. Yeah, they have to lose if they want the first pick because if they don't,
Yeah.
yeah. And this might be a good thing for Chicago because as weird as it sounds, I think you get more for the number 1 pick than the number 2 pick.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah. Because
see.
then you get your choice of quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. So you choose between the two. And I think that's when you talk about having 1 and 2 being quarterbacks, you'd rather be able to take the one that fits your team the best.
Right. And yeah, and you could just squeeze the Texans out of draft picks too if they want to move back up.
Right, right. And they have plenty.
Yeah.
Let's see, San Francisco at Las Vegas. I'm obviously I'm taking San Francisco here. The Raiders just because they're not even starting Carr, right?
No, he's done.
Yeah, so you're gonna try to run Josh Jacobs into the San Francisco defense all day. Good luck.
Yeah, that's all they can do with Jarrett Stidham starting.
Right. So I don't feel like that's a good matchup for Josh Jacobs. And then if they do have to pass, this guy might get murdered. So
Yeah.
I think the Raiders do okay though. It's at home. They have some pride, you would think. So I'm going to give San Francisco by 9.
The spread is 10. I'm going to have the 49ers win by 14. Perryman and Chandler Jones are both out too. Rocky on Sin was put on IR. They're
Oh,
pretty much
jeez.
like, and we're done. We're going to start losing. So,
Well, I might switch that to 19 then.
yeah. So, and the players are pretty ticked off at the coaches for what they did to Carr. So Yeah, I don't think this is not gonna be a good game to watch for a Raider fan.
They might not even show up.
Yeah, it's gonna be
But
bad.
they're all going to take off to some Vegas strip club.
Well, considering I get like, Carr's had a bad year and everything, but he is the leader of that team.
He is, yeah.
Like what he had to go through last year, you didn't see Mark Davis ever get up on the podium to talk about anything. No, they sent Derek Carr out there to talk about Gruden, to talk about Ruggs, to do all that stuff.
Right.
Mark Davis just hit in a corner and had this quarterback deal with it all. And then now they're like, "Oh, screw you. We don't want you anymore."
Yeah.
So,
He's definitely playing the part of the scapegoat here.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I thought it is interesting though. Like I showed you that statistic because I didn't realize that he had so many losses as a starter. And you
right,
don't. It's obviously not all his fault. There's a lot of players on an NFL team, but it's rare though that a team would keep somebody in that position for so long.
right.
Because if you think about it, that's like 7, 8 losses a year.
Well, there was this thing out here that it's called the quarterback betrayal index, and it was like some stats stuff, but and it deals with special teams and defense and with how it helps a quarterback out. And in it, and this is going on probably for the last, I don't know how many years. He's 88th out of 92.
So he's getting no help, basically, is what
He's
you're
getting
saying.
no help at all. And
Yeah,
then it's everyone's blaming him for not winning games.
right. Yeah, and that's the defense has definitely been an issue for the Raiders for a while.
Right.
And they have not done good, like we talked about with their picks either, right? So they've had chances to have a lot of picks that they haven't really taken advantage of.
Right. They've had, yeah, it's like, okay, so now we're starting over, basically. The Raiders are
Yeah.
starting over, just like they did when Gruden came in and he traded Khalil Mack.
Hmm.
He started over. He's like, I got all these picks. And what did that do?
They just screwed them all up, and that was
Yeah.
crazy because they did well. Like that, it was a good trade. I thought. I was happy to get Khalil Mack. I wasn't happy to give up that much for him, but I think that Las Vegas made out great in that trade.
Yeah.
And so that was but then yeah, you're right. I mean, it's like, what do you get out of that? So
So the one constant was Carr. And you know
right.
what? They got him to the playoffs last year with a bare bones team. So,
So what's interesting though is let's say they have to cut Carr here, right? Because they have to cut him before the Super Bowl if they want to not take dead cap.
right.
And so if you're already sitting him, so you might as well cut him because
Well,
he's
they're going
he's,
to
he's
trade
not
him.
going to. Or yeah, you trade him too for sure. So is that your goal? Is like, are you trying to trade for a pick to get up into? Probably not going to get into the 1 or 2 slot, right? So what are you looking at? You're looking at maybe what's his name from Kentucky,
Oof,
um,
I don't want Will Levis.
Levis, or
Anthony
because
Richardson. The
yeah,
only with him though, if the plan is, and I've heard some rumors it'll be is Brady next year.
yeah,
Then it's like, okay, you draft Anthony Richardson or somebody like that because you can sit him.
they can sit him. You
But
you
if
have to have
I'm,
somebody that gets the ball to Adams, though, right?
yeah, what if I'm looking at it, they need to be in the top six with all their, if they lose if they lose, I looked at it, it's like they can move to the sixth spot. And if they can get I could probably get a one for Carr from a team like a Commanders or you know what I mean? Some team, the
Right.
Jets.
Or like the
Someone,
Colts,
yeah.
because the
Colts will
Colts
be
love
two.
doing that.
Yeah. The Buccaneers, right?
Right.
The Patriots, something like
So then you're
that.
saying you take the 1 and the 6 and you package it for a 1 or a 2.
Yeah, for the 1 or 2, yeah. You'll probably
Right.
have to give up more than that, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because
Because you
for
would think
me,
you could get a late one for Carr.
the only reason I would do this and get rid of Carr is if I get Stroud or Young.
Yeah. Otherwise, what's the point, right?
Right. Because then it's like, you know what? Let him go out there again. If he fails again, you go after Caleb Williams or Drake May,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, yeah, but then yeah, that now you're facing cap issues though with him.
Right. But I don't think he has that much dead money.
He will after once
I
the
don't
Super
think so.
Bowl
I think
starts.
how his contract is.
I mean, and it's not a ton until next year. It's even more, but it's a lot more than it is less than if they cut him before the season ends
Right.
or trade him. So they could cut him or they could trade him before the season ends and save a significant, not a ton, but a significant amount of money. But next year, it's really going to be tough.
Right.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
But it's only so the dead cap is 5.6 million for next year, then 3.7 the year after, and then 1.8 the year after that. So they can cut him and it's not going to be any dead cap money.
If they cut him
If they keep,
before,
yeah. So potential out. Right. So if they cut him and do that, then it's only a 5.6 million. Then if they cut him after that, it's a 3.7 million and then 1 point. So they don't, there's in the structure of the deal, there's no dead cap money in it. So they can get out of it still.
I'll have to look at that again because he's got a 3-year, 121 million contract,
Right.
and
They
33
put
million is guaranteed.
right. But in the dead cap is where, so if you got to look at the dead cap number, that's the number that
Let's look at this real quick. So it's guaranteed with injury. See, this says it would be a 19 million cap hit.
no.
Oh, his dead cap is 512 versus his cap hit.
Right. So the cap hit is what the number they used for using him for the cap. The dead money is if you cut him, this is how much you owe.
Right, right, yeah, yeah. But still, so the 19 still that still affects your overall cap though.
Right. But if like let's say they kept him this next year and then the year
Then they
after
could
they get
cut
rid of
him,
him,
right,
they could
for the
still
5
cut him.
million. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it'll still show, 19 million against their cap because that's guaranteed.
Right. But that's for a starting quarterback, 19
Yeah, it's
million.
not terrible for
Yeah.
sure.
So if they get him, if they trade him or cut him, they save 30 million in cap space
Right.
next year. So that's
Which
why.
that's what I'm saying. That's why I think they're looking at that is because they save that huge amount of cap space.
But it only works if you get Stroud or Young.
Well, it only makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because you could still do it, because you could take at 6, you could still take a decent quarterback because there's a few of them in the
Yeah.
draft.
I don't know. I don't trust Levis.
Yeah. But I mean, they've already said he's got the best arm, though.
That's like the worst thing to say.
Right. I mean, they're
Zach
comparing him to
Wilson.
Josh. They're comparing him to Josh Allen.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, And then
I know.
Richardson, I'm a Florida guy, but Richardson's way too much of a project.
Yeah, yeah, that's a risk. What about Hooker? He's coming out, right?
Yeah, but he's 25
Yeah,
and he's coming off an ACL
getting in
injury,
there a
so he's
little
not even
little
going to
older.
play really next year. You can get him in probably the third or fourth round, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do. I think this is it's a weird thing at the end of the season, right? To now just sit him.
Well, that's because of the injury guarantees.
Yeah, yeah,
But
because
yeah, I
they want
mean,
him to
it's
like
going to
go
be
down and fake an injury. He's gonna be like, "Oh, my leg."
in my back.
Oh man.
So yeah, then it's so weird. It's going to be like Stafford Goff. They're going to have to trade him before the Super Bowl.
Right, right.
So it's going to be one of those wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah.
He's been traded, but it's not official until April.
Yeah, because it has to happen before the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's it's gonna be fun to watch that. I think that's for a lot of people it may not be as interesting, but for Raiders fans and fans of the game, I think it's interesting.
And then the other thing is he might just retire.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm done.
Well, he said that before. He said, I only want to play for the Raiders. And he's got like a ministry going on. So, and
Yeah.
he's a big time family man. He's probably not, he's got a house in Vegas. So
Yeah, I mean, you never
he's got a
know,
$100
right?
million. I mean,
Yeah, he doesn't really need it. Why get beat up more, right?
mhm.
Especially if you're gonna go to a not a good team or something like that too.
Especially like he's one of the most like I can't think of another quarterback who has had such a love hate. Like so many people love him and so many people hate him from the team. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like you go on Twitter and it's toxic.
It is. It's rough. He's had it rough for a long time though.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's persevered. So let's see. Let's jump here. We got what do we got? 5 more games left. So New York, the Jets at Seattle. I think it's me. I got this. I got Seattle here because it's at home. I think Seattle needs to win to keep their playoff hopes alive, and the Jets just don't look good to me right now. At one point, I thought the Jets were a playoff contender, but they're just looking really horrible. So at home, I'm going to take Seattle by a touchdown.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if it's gonna Zach Wilson or is it gonna be what's the guy that
Some guy they pulled out of the streets.
the guy from the CFL
Yeah.
could only run the ball. He couldn't really throw very well.
It'll probably be him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they're grasping at straws. I think Seattle needs this win to get back into the playoffs. So I'm taking Seattle by 7.
Minnesota and Green Bay. This got a lot more interesting.
Yeah, this might be a swing game because I'm taking the Packers here. It's at home. It's Lambeau. They're hot right now. And so one of these times, Vikings are going to lose a close game.
Right.
It's just
You
the
would think.
odds,
You would think.
right? They've already clinched the division.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm taking the Packers by 4 here.
Yeah. I went back and forth on this one. Um, but I really think Minnesota wants a shot at the home field advantage. And I think they think that with Hurts being banged up, they have a shot at it. So I think they're gonna really play hard this game. Um, Green Bay's defense hasn't looked particularly great. I think they had one of their better games last week, and they still gave up, you know, 300 yards, and Waddle and Hill had huge days. So you got to stop Jefferson, and there's good offense out there in Minnesota. It's going to be cold though here in Green Bay, so I think that's the downfall. So this is why it was so hard for me. I think it'd be a close game. I think Minnesota's going to pull out this close one again. You'd think they can't pull them all out, but I still got Minnesota here. So swing game, Minnesota by 5.
Well, and you'll have to check because if the Eagles win a 10 o'clock game, we'll see what kind of mood the
Right, and then
Vikings are in.
it might change, right?
No.
It might have to swing back. But regardless, it's a division game, and I don't think
Yeah.
Minnesota ever is going to play light against Green Bay or
Right.
Chicago, or Detroit. If it was like playing someone else, you'd think, yeah, maybe they take it easy, but they hate Green Bay just as much as they hate Chicago. And so I think Minnesota's still a little more talented, but Green Bay is making their way back. They're looking better. So it's a tough game. That was a tough one to pick. Rams at the Chargers, Battle of LA.
That's true.
Um, I mean, obviously I take the Chargers here, but the Rams putting up 51 last week. Who knows? Uh, I think the Chargers still have to win this game. Well, I guess it's at Los Angeles for both of them. So there's no home field advantage there. I still just don't think the Rams are very good. So I got the Chargers by 11.
Yeah, the spread's 6.5. I'm going with the Chargers also. They've already clinched a playoff spot, but I think they want to. Well, the coach, he wants to make sure that he's still the coach next year. So he needs to keep
Yeah.
winning games. So yeah, I think Bosa might be back too. So it's going to be big for the Chargers.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think the playoffs is what's going to determine his
Right.
stint as a coach. I think if he doesn't do well in the playoffs this year, I think they reevaluate.
Right.
If they
Well,
lose, the
you could
wild
get
card.
Sean Payton. I don't care how far you get. You're going to take Sean Payton over that
Right,
guy.
exactly. Pittsburgh at Baltimore, much more interesting game now. Pittsburgh
Yeah,
again, they're in the hunt.
I'm still
Technically not eliminated.
right. I'm taking the Ravens here. They're just a better team right now. Steelers should be eliminated from the playoffs, but they played the dumpster fire in the Raiders last week and somehow won. Pickett does not look good.
No.
I got the Ravens winning. That spread is 2.5. I got them winning by 3. They got Tucker.
Yeah, I agree. I got him by 3 as well on 4 Tucker field goals. uh, and 3 Pittsburgh field goals because neither team can really score. And Pickett has got to be, but you got to admit there weren't any good quarterbacks in the draft, right? And what else? What do you get? You got to do what you got to do, right? You got to take what's available,
Obviously, they should have traded for Garoppolo.
right? Or just let Trubisky play out the year, and if it went really bad, then you get a
Right.
great pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You could have got a good player with that first round pick.
Right. Yeah. They were pretty desperate. And see, that's what I
Uh,
hate. When you're desperate for a quarterback,
you do desperate things,
right? And I mean, when the Steelers made the playoffs last year, and it wasn't because of Ben Roethlisberger. So they were like, oh, we just need a quarterback.
right?
And they still just need a quarterback.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. It's like why not just because Pickett is not any better than Trubisky, and he never will be. So why not just let Trubisky play out the year, or why even draft a quarterback? Get a nice, good first round pick, a lineman or a good defensive player, and then if you end up like having one horrible year, great, you've got a great quarterback class coming out.
Right.
It was a weird pick for me. I didn't get that pick. Or just let him slip down to like round 3, and then take him. So Baltimore there. Game of the week: Buffalo at
Yeah.
Cincinnati, Monday Night Football. What do you got?
Let me go get a coin.
Feels like
This is a
that, doesn't
tough
it?
one for me because it both teams are in the hunt for the number one spot.
Right.
And I am going to go because they're my team to win it all. I'm taking the Bills to beat the Bengals. I just think they're the more well-rounded team on offense and defense. So I'm taking the Bills by the slimmest of margins. I'm gonna say they win by one.
By one. Yeah, this was really tough because they both look like great teams, right? I also have the Bills going far, but I have Cincinnati going far, so I think you have very equal teams here. Cincinnati, to me, has looked slightly better in the last few games. And I think Joe Burrow is getting a little bit of confidence. Not that he doesn't have any, but as he's getting more and more as he goes throughout the season. And that's dangerous when you talk about Joe Burrow because he's a confidence player.
Right.
And when he gets hot, he gets real hot. So I'm taking Cincinnati here on another swing game. So this might be the most swing games we've had in
I
a
would
week.
say.
uh, you could actually take the lead here if they all go right. So this is a big week. But I'm going to take Cincinnati by a touchdown. It's at home. Uh, it's a big game. I actually can't wait to watch it. I think this is going to be one of my favorite games to watch all weekend. So
Right. They haven't had a very good. It's like Monday night and Thursday night. Have Sunday nights. They haven't been that great
no,
this year. But this looks like the game.
yeah, it looks like it's going to be a good one. I hope. And it's late in the season. It's a meaningful impact game.
Yeah.
There's a lot on the line. So should be fun to watch. A lot of games, a lot of college games. We'll guess we got to update people on the HSC podcast, fantasy football, where we both lost in the first round of the playoffs. So we're out. Really, really tough losses for both of us, considering we were the top seeds.
Yep. Injuries.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot you can do when you're, for me, it's like the other team just put up so many
Yeah,
points.
that was crazy.
Yeah. So I don't feel bad losing after putting up like 280 points.
Right.
That just means the other team was amazing because that's normally what my team's only been doing 10 points less than that a week. My team's been consistent throughout the year, scoring over 130 points a game. The other team just happened to score more in that first big week, 160 points.
And for me, losing my quarterback and two starting running backs kind of makes it a little harder to
Yeah, I
win
think you've
playoffs.
been playing. You've been having a good season without Jonathan Taylor for the most
Yeah.
part because he hasn't been much there for you. I mean, he's had games here and there, but he hasn't been consistent. Not a number one pick consistent.
No. Well, and it was Pierce. Pierce was helping me, and then he got hurt.
Yeah,
So,
right, right. But losing Hurts was big because Hurts been killing it for you all year.
but I mean, Minshaw still put up 20 something points. So it wasn't that big of a drop off for the quarterback.
Right, that's true. I mean,
It
because he did
was
he did have a big game.
it was Taylor getting hurt, me starting him and him getting hurt within the first few plays.
So you really get
And
no points.
he got 1 point. So in the playoffs, you need more than that.
Well, that's the same thing. It's like for me, Pro Bowl Miles Sanders gives me 1.9 points. So, that kind of hurt. Because if I'd have played Devonta Smith instead of Miles Sanders, like I normally do in that flex position, I would have won.
Right.
But like I said, you can't go back and say, I should have done that because then it's easy to look at your bench and be like, oh, I had this guy scored 22 points.
Right.
That's the way fantasy football goes. But it's rough to score the most points in the league and still have a 280 point week or two
And to
week
lose.
period
Yeah.
and still lose. So, but that's what happens. So I'm out. You're out. So we got
Obviously,
Josh and Mike fighting for the title.
obviously, it was Wes's fault because he should have been able to not. Actually, Steve, it's your fault. You should have
Yeah,
let Wes win.
I should have tanked against West, got him in there, and then I could have beat him. I mean, but Josh scored a lot of points throughout the season, so he had a good team, you know.
He had some bad luck games.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So he should have been in the playoffs anyway. Like there was, you know, but to have your two of your best weeks in the playoffs, that's just lucky.
Right.
Yeah. And
I'm
then
pretty sure
our
he's
other
going to
league,
win.
our other league, we you won and I lost again, so
Yeah.
I'm out of both leagues now.
I'm trying to take the
Again,
Chicago title.
scoring the second most points, having a huge game, and same thing. The other guy put up 160 almost on the week one. Just couldn't come all the way back. I was close, about like 13 points or something like that. So
Yep. I got to see. I think we're.
yeah, you play. Obviously, you're playing the guy I played. I don't think his
Right.
team's that great. Like he just had some good performances.
Right. Because he's got Josh Allen and Josh Jacobs, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith. See, Kittle has been carrying him
Well,
lately.
that's what killed me. Kittle both weeks had like
Mhm.
30 points, you know, and that's not hasn't been all year for Kittle.
Right.
And so for Kittle to put up that many points in those two games really is what lifted him to win that.
Well, I got to change my defense out here.
Well, at least you're still in the Chicago title, so you got to win that one.
So here, Steve, Jaguars against Houston, Chiefs against Denver, or Giants against Colts. Giants.
I mean, obviously you got to take the Giants or the Chiefs. You know, Denver's not scoring any points.
Well, it's funny. These all three of these teams are available, and it's against the number 30th, 29th, and 32nd offenses.
Yeah, like it's the three worst offenses. I think Houston's probably the. I wouldn't go against Houston. I think they'll score points.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Giants.
Yeah, yeah, it's probably your best bet because the Colts are pretty much, you know, not even playing anymore.
Right. Come on,
And
lock it.
yeah, KC's defense.
Yeah.
It's gonna
So
be
that,
cold. It's gonna be cold. That's a big advantage there.
and then, like you said, who knows if Russell Wilson starts playing well because the coach is gone.
Right. Yeah. Maybe the whole team starts playing real well. So then they could be like, look, told you it was the coach's fault. Oh, that's great. So fantasy football season wraps up for us. NFL season's getting close here. This is we got this week and next week, and then we'll see how our season predictions came out, and then how our playoff predictions came out from the beginning of the season.
I'm way bad already.
Yeah, it's not looking great, is it?
Oh,
But then we get into playoff predictions too. So if you guys are listening, thanks for listening. Uh, you know, stay tuned these last few weeks because once we start in the playoffs, we'll be given also weekly playoff predictions and help you navigate your way through the playoffs. Uh, don't forget to subscribe and like. If you're listening on or Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, you know, keep listening. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Any last words?
not much. Just that there's a lot of games still with a lot on the line for playoff position or positioning, playoff spots. So it's going to be a good week. I'm really looking forward to that Bills Bengals game, though.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of games, I think, in the NFL, but if college, I mean, like if
College.
you're a football fan, this is the weekend, right? Like if you
Friday
love
through Monday.
football, if you love football, you're going to get a lot of games, a lot of good games, you know, bowl games and college football playoff games and playoff, you know, implication games in the NFL. Like this is, yeah, we're bringing in a new year, but if you're a football fan, man, what a weekend.
Yep.
That's all I got to say. So, thanks for watching. We will see you guys next time. Podcast out.